Hello and welcome to the Moyo Show. This is episode 6. Last week we covered the history of multiplayer, where I said that I'd like to look at the history of game trailers. This was in response to Rockstar and Netflix announcing GTA 6 An Extended Look, which will be coming out in about 12 days, I believe, from time of recording. I'm very excited about what's actually going to be in it. But the other thing I'm really excited about is the unprecedented nature of this announcement, of this collaboration. Never before have we seen this in the gaming industry. We've never seen a game developer work directly with such a titan of film and TV to show off a trailer, nonetheless, for their video games. Nor have we really ever seen paid exclusivity for a trailer before. It sort of speaks volumes to the significance of Grand Theft Auto 6 and that release for not just the gaming industry, but for the entertainment industry as a whole. So I think it's apt that we go back and look at the history of game trailers and marketing so we can sort of understand where this industry has been before when it comes to marketing and what this new unprecedented shift could mean for the future. Will we see more developers partnering with streaming services like Amazon Prime or Disney Plus to show off their games? I could easily now foresee a company like Insomniac or whoever, if they're doing a Marvel superhero game, partnering with Disney Plus now to do a extended look at their games and to do exclusive content for trailers and what have you, that would be exclusive to Disney Plus or exclusive to their own platforms. But before we go any further, I want to give you this week's recommendation. This week's recommendation is a video by Cult Repo. It is a 90-minute, or roughly 90-minute, documentary on Python, the history of Python, how Guido van Rossum sort of created it and where it came from, and all the people who were involved in the rise of Python. Python is a programming language, so if you're not a programmer, or if you're not interested in programming, you're probably not going to find it too informative or too interesting for you, but if you are, then possibly this may be a great video for you. Python is a really interesting language. It is an interpreted scripting language, is sort of the way I would describe it. And it is my favorite language. It's the way I program basically everything, not just at work, but in my personal life. My Fumble website, that is basically all Python, except for obviously the HTML and CSS just to make it work in the browser. But basically everything there is all Python, because I love Python. I do Python for everything I do. So yeah, excellent documentary. I really recommend you go have a look at that. Or if you're interested in that, any of the other documentaries that Cult Repo have done, they've done one, I believe, on C++ and Java. So yeah, go have a look at those if you're a person who is interested in software development. They may be really entertaining videos for you. All right, so let me just look at my notes. So yeah, we're gonna quickly just go over the news first, and sort of cover that and why it's so important, and then we're going to sort of go back. We're going to go back in time to sort of the early 2000s up to about 2006, where we're going to cover sort of the early pre-rendered world of trailers and marketing, and then we're going to go a little bit further forward to about 2012 to 2014, where we have sort of this vertical slice concept where developers would show only a small piece of what they had made so far, and then I'm going to come back to Rockstar and sort of talk about how they're currently doing things and why this move is so important for the gaming industry as a whole and what it could mean for the future. So the announcement was quite unexpected, at least for me. I was quite shocked that they would do an exclusive thing with Netflix. My personal opinion about it is I don't really mind that there is a 6-hour exclusivity. Like, I've already got a Netflix subscription. I'm not losing out on anything. I understand the outrage. I understand why some people are a little unhappy that the trailer that they've been waiting for is going to be locked behind Netflix for 6 hours. Simultaneously, though, at 6 hours, we're going to have another 95 days, I think it is now, worth of wait before we get to see Grand Theft Auto 6 actual release. So 6 hours is nothing on that time scale. I don't think it's a major issue. Yeah, just wait for that to come out, and then it'll be out. It's a game trailer. People will complain about that, but like not complain about microtransactions, and not complain about the fact that we're not having ownership of our game. So this, in comparison to any of those issues, seems like a minor inconvenience compared to the actual problems of the gaming industry. But that's just my opinion. I understand if you especially look, I know there will be people out there who will go and actually subscribe to Netflix just for this, and it does sort of feel like you're just encouraging them to do this. Now, if you don't have a Netflix subscription and you're just going to get it for this, please don't. I get it. If I was in that boat, I would also just be sort of clawing and scratching for it. But it's not worth it. It's 6 hours. If you don't already have a subscription, then don't just go get one for this. If you do get one, get it because you can actually watch some stuff. Unless you can get a free trial. If there's a free trial that you can get for Netflix, although I don't know if they do that anymore. But if there is a free trial you can get, you can cancel it immediately, then sure, why not? Go do that. They won't get anything, and then they'll see in the data when they go and analyze how successful this was, that they didn't really get anything out of it, other than people watched it, but no one subscribed just for that. So, yeah. Anyway, I think the important thing, I think the core of why this is so important is that it's Netflix. It's a traditional film and TV giant who wants to have a video game trailer so badly on their platform that they have seemingly paid for exclusivity. Only 6 hours. And in my opinion, this speaks volumes about the scale of GTA 6's impact on the industry, on the entertainment industry. I think they think that this is going to be such a massive piece of the pie of entertainment in 2026 and possibly even going into 2027 that getting any small slice of what GTA 6 is taking up in that pie is going to be beneficial for them. I'm sure they've looked at the numbers and gone, well, paying for 6 hours of exclusivity means we're going to get X number of subscriptions, even if it's only for people who are going to subscribe once. That's going to be X number of millions of dollars. So, that is now worth it for us. All you need is someone to subscribe for $7. You need 100,000 people to do that, and you made $7 million off of that one trailer. So I don't think it's crazy for them to, if they've paid for exclusivity, I wouldn't be surprised if they've done that. And the fact that it's 6 hours, I'm also not surprised. There absolutely will be people, as I've mentioned, there will be people who will go out and get a subscription just for this. Please don't. If you're thinking about it, please don't. But this is unprecedented, as I've said. This feels like a massive turning point, whether good or bad, I'm not too sure. But this sort of proves that video games are no longer just the big dog industry in the entertainment industry. It sort of proves now that the other pillars of this industry can't ignore the gaming industry. Netflix has tried to get into gaming. I don't think anyone has ever played a game on Netflix, but if you have, then maybe that's the question for today's episode. Have you ever played a game on Netflix? And if so, why? But yeah, GTA 6 being released, this could just be a flash in the pan. It could be a one-time thing. This could maybe never happen again. But I also feel like this could absolutely be a turning point where gaming industry is respected and, to be honest, slightly feared by the rest of the entertainment industry. And they see not just how much money that part of the industry, that part of the entertainment industry makes, but how much time that part of the industry consumes. An average game will probably take someone, if not 2 hours, which is a full length movie, like at least 2 hours, probably 10 plus hours, and that person may play that game for hundreds of hours. So because there's so much endless entertainment you can get from a single game, compared to a film or a TV series, which is whatever the run length of that series is, plus whatever the rewatchability of that series or film is. The entertainment industry, when it compares itself to the gaming industry, or the rest of the entertainment industry compares itself to the gaming industry, it can't compete on value to the amount of content you're delivering to the consumer for the same amount of dollars. So it feels like you're finally trying to get in on the action. They're trying to get involved. Again, whether it's good or bad, who knows? But this does feel like a shift. It feels like the rest of the industry is no longer scoffing at the video game industry. They're going, oh shit, these guys are taking up so much more time and money from the consumer than we are. We need to either get involved or evolve in some way to bring the consumer in. And how that goes, time will only tell. Hindsight will be hindsight will be a bitch, but right now it does feel like everyone in the industry is they're either hoping that GTA 6 is a massive flop and the gaming industry has another crash, or that they'll be able to get in on the gaming industry now, or at least within the next year or so. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many, I know Amazon's already gotten in there with the James Bond game, so it's not that they haven't been keeping an eye on the gaming industry, but it definitely feels like there's a bit of a shift towards actually getting involved in sort of a more mainstream way, at least recently, that I've seen. I think the other interesting part of this collaboration is going to be how much resource Netflix is going to put to shoring up their content delivery network for this release, for this trailer. The current estimates that people have put out are that it's going to be like 20 minutes, which seems reasonable. I don't think it's going to be in half an hour. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near an hour. I could see it being close, like it's anywhere between 10 minutes and 30 minutes worth of content. I would be surprised if it's less than 10 minutes, and I'd be shocked if they showed more than 30 minutes, because at that point you're starting to give away more information than you might want to, and if you give away too much, then they might feel like they won't have any more to show later on in the year, closer to release, to sort of get those last pre-orders in from the consumers. Actually, one thing I didn't mention is the normie factor. Netflix isn't a gaming hub. It's not a place where hardcore or even casual gamers hang out. It is a place where casual entertainment consumers hang out, and some of them may own a video game console, but they may not be following the news. They may not know about GTA 6. So I think there is sort of this idea on Netflix's side or Rockstar's side that they'll be able to get into the normie audience with the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer. In my opinion, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Netflix is just banking more, or Netflix is definitely going to be banking on hardcore fans of GTA subscribing to get an early peek at this trailer. But whether or not it actually expands outside of the gaming zeitgeist and into the sort of normie zeitgeist and into the world of normie entertainment. Only time will tell with that. It'll be interesting to see if that works, because if it does, we may see in the future that more casual action-adventure games like, say, next God of War, or especially now that they're doing a God of War, live-action show? Yeah, that's it. Or Last of Us or Fallout, or any of those sort of big franchises, you could easily see them going, oh, this drags in more normie audiences to our content, into our games. Well, let's go and do more partnerships with Amazon and Disney Plus and Netflix to try and get more normies into the gaming industry. So it could ultimately backfire for the rest of the entertainment industry if this happens, because you could there is a scenario, there is a world where this, if it does manage to reel in normies from the rest of the entertainment industry, that you could have a mass exodus of users from Netflix and Disney Plus and Amazon Prime going to the gaming industry and spending their time and money there. So it will be really interesting to see what actually ends up happening. Again, I've said it 5 times now, but time will tell. But in the history of game trailers, it's not always been smooth sailing. So going back to the sort of early 2000s, we had the sort of start of full motion video trailers and pre-rendered trailers that really were sort of, they were target renderers. They were like, this is what we think we will be able to do on this hardware, but they sort of presented it as if they either had that hardware and were able to achieve a certain level of graphics, or just a sort of a way to sort of pretend like they had already gotten the gameplay or already gotten the engine to what they're showing, when in reality what they're showing has nothing to do with the game and is more sort of more like concept art, if anything, than actual demonstration of the product. So yeah, early 2000s, the industry was moving from PlayStation 1 to sort of PlayStation 2. And hardware was incredibly limited. But, for publishers, they were very ambitious. They thought that they could do so much more with PlayStation 2. But I don't even want to talk about the PlayStation 2's trailers. I want to talk about when the PlayStation 3 was announced. Back in 2005, you had 2 just massive examples of just pre-rendered bullshit trailers. So in 2005, at E3, Killzone 2 basically had a trailer showing this is in real time on PlayStation 3 hardware, and it was just complete bullshit. It was completely fabricated. It was just a CGI video, completely pre-rendered, created not even by the developers. It was created by an external animation studio. Because at the time there was a massive difference between what they could render at real time on the hardware, the hardware having to calculate physics and AI and geometry, and in order to get the frame rate they wanted. There's a massive difference there between real time and what they could do with offline rendering, what they could do with a big old server farm, a rendering farm, spending 48 hours to render a single frame of a trailer. So to them, they were looking at what they could do on the hardware. They almost certainly went, well, we could probably achieve this when we actually go to work on it. We already have some art concepts, and we already know what the game's kind of going to look like, and we already know what this is going to sort of be. So let's go to an outside vendor and just get them to make a CGI video that just completely misrepresents what we're making. And then that same E3, Motorstorm, in the Sony showcase, showed a pre-rendered mud physics and vehicle deformation video. And the PS3 cell processor could not do basically any of the shit that they were showing. So this era was sort of this time of developers thinking they could do so much more than what the actual hardware allowed, and thinking they could get away with just showing what they think they can do rather than showing what they've actually done, as a way to sort of get around the sharper edges of game development, and so they don't have to show early alpha builds or beta builds or whatever, in order to use that as their marketing. They could use something that is clean and looks final, when in reality it's not even slightly close to actual in-engine gameplay, or even in-engine graphics, because you can do a cinematic trailer that's not pre-rendered and do it in engine. But Killzone 2 was just so blatant. They were so manipulative. The actual thing they were showing looked like gameplay, and then it wasn't. They were just lying to consumers. And it left a really poor taste in people's mouth when it comes to trailers. They started expecting more of the actual game, things that come from the actual developers that can show off what the hardware can actually do. And that sort of leads us on to 2012, 2014, where we had sort of the vertical slice trailer. You sort of get this, basically in software development, this concept of a vertical slice it's just a prototype. It's held together with duct tape and hope and wishes and dreams. Lots of writing scripts that are extremely hard coded. The developers just sitting in the corner praying it doesn't break. If the player does anything outside of the very, very strict vertical slice that they prepared for the demo, you could have an instance of just the game crashes and it just completely ruins the illusion of what they're showing. This was especially egregious when you have that vertical slice being, showing off graphics that could theoretically be done, but because of how limited that vertical slice is, you have a real misinterpretation or a poor communication of, this is what could happen, this is what it could look like in the actual engine, actually running, if we manage to get the rest of the game on top of this to run as smoothly as we've got it to run here. I think that's the best way of explaining it. You've got an incredibly thin slice of the game, so you can sort of boost the graphics to what you think it's going to look like in final. But if you don't get there, you get a really, really bad demo. You get egg on your face. A classic example is Watch Dogs 2. Watch Dogs 1, the 2012 showcase. So at E3 2012, Ubisoft was doing their conference and they were really confident about Watch Dogs. So confident that they showed gameplay. And that gameplay had dynamic wind physics, that had I think it had volumetric fog as well, which for the time was incredibly impressive. Some amazing lighting. It looked like real life. That's sort of what they were going for. At the time, it was just the most impressive looking demo. By the time the game was released, though, it didn't look anything like that. PC modders eventually did find all of the sort of things they had in the game sort of for the E3 demo, all the graphic settings they had there, and all of them were just disabled because the game just ran like hot garbage when they turned them on. Not just on the consoles, but on the new consoles with the PS4 and Xbox One, as well as PC hardware at the time. It just couldn't run that level of graphics they had worked on. So it's not necessarily that they were lying that they couldn't do those graphics. It was that they couldn't do them in such a way that the game would run appropriately in the final game. But they could do that in the vertical slice, so they did. You have other examples of this as well. Another infamous example, also from Ubisoft, our best friends, was Rainbow Six Siege. If you just go and go on YouTube and look up the Rainbow Six Siege trailer. Actually, there's a brilliant video. I'll just tell you the video that I remember these trailers from, because it is just hilarious. Ubisoft trailer downgrades. This is an excellent look into sort of this generation of downgrades and this generation of vertical slice trailers. So this was posted in 2016 by Crow Becat. It's called Ubisoft Downgrades. It has like 21 million views, but basically he shows off Watch Dogs, The Division, Rainbow Six Siege, Far Cry 3 and 4, and basically shows the massive graphics downgrade. I may put some of the footage on screen, I don't know. But yeah, Rainbow Six Siege was especially egregious. It had this amazing sort of haze look, and the lighting looked miraculously good. It had some really realistic shadows, some really nice specular highlights. Everything about the graphics and even the movement of characters looked super dynamic and super fluid and super real. And then the final game came out, and the game itself was good. It's just it wasn't what they showed. It was nothing like what they showed comparatively to the final game. And another just classic botch in this time was Aliens Colonial Marines, also 2012. At the time, Gearbox was really on all cylinders, firing on all cylinders. Gearbox was sort of seen as very scrappy, but still producing high quality gameplay experiences. Especially with the Borderlands series. The Borderlands series is not one I personally have indulged in. I've not personally played too much of the Borderlands games, but I've heard absolute just praise for those games. So when Gearbox was tasked with creating a entry in the Aliens sort of franchise of media, they went and they made Colonial Marines, and they showed off this incredibly dynamic trailer with some amazing lighting and incredibly intelligent xenomorph AI, and it just did not exist. It didn't exist in the final product, and it's another case of just it looked exactly like what they were gonna be able to do, but weren't actually able to achieve. And that's the key to remember with this sort of era of vertical slice. It wasn't, even today, it's not really lying in the same way that, the Killzone 2 trailer was lying. This is sort of a lying in the fine print almost, like what they're showing is technically achievable. It's just they technically don't have the ability to achieve it. But you also had other cases of publishers releasing sort of doctored or misleading screenshots. You had basically they would take like a screenshot within the game, say on a dev kit or on a powerful PC, and they'd render it at like 8K or some stupidly high resolution, and then they would downsample it and then apply just a ridiculous amount of anti-aliasing, and they would post that and pretend like that was just what gameplay looks like. And surprisingly enough, this came with a lot of pushback from the community. You had channels like Digital Foundry who were absolutely excellent at this sort of stuff, where they would pixel peep every single frame, and they would really sort of force the industry to reel with their lies. And I think today, because of because of how closely the industry, or how closely the community is watchdogging this watchdogs, how closely the community is watchdogging trailers and watchdogging the accuracy of what publishers and developers say, this has sort of brought in internal guidelines at these companies where they now have to say things like, this was captured on PC, or this is in-engine footage, or this is running in real time, which was a classic one. I think even Kojima said that for Death Stranding. And to be fair for him, his graphics looked like that, because the Decima engine is fucking insane. Maybe we'll do a video on Decima engine or on engines. But yeah, they sort of had to put into their trailers, or before their trailers, very clear, like, this isn't final, this is not what this looks like. This is as close as we can show you in a very nice polished setting where your investors are going to look at this, but so is the community, so this is sort of our compromise. And you do have the odd trailers that come out and they don't really look like, they're not super accurate as to what the final gameplay is. But to be fair to the industry, we've gotten a lot better. It's very clear now when something is supposed to be cinematic. They don't try and hide it anymore. They sort of show you very clearly, no, this is sort of to show you what the feel of the game is going to be. And they might show you actual cinematics from the game, but this is clearly a cinematic trailer, this is clearly a trailer, this is clearly gameplay. I think all around the industry has gotten a lot better. Not on their own accord. Again, it's definitely because of all the pushback, because the community has sort of forced them to be better, which is good. I think it's good that the gaming industry listens to the community and hears what people have to say about them and how they go about marketing their games, especially in the cases where they are egregious. The community punishes them, and they have learned that, I think mostly have learned that you can't misrepresent your game to the community, because then they will not buy it, they'll refund it, they'll do whatever, they will come at you. And it's sort of the reality that the gaming industry has sort of fallen into. There are a lot of very, very wealthy people who are involved in the gaming industry now. A lot of investors and people who have learned that when the community, say, review bombs a game, that's not just reputational harm, that's financial harm. That is a harm to a game's sales, that is harm to the bottom line. And if management doesn't have clear leadership during those instances, you absolutely see cases where your investors will either pull out of a company because of how poor the management is being, or they will actively seek to replace management. You'll have activist investors who will absolutely go balls to the wall to try and get rid of management, to get rid of key members of the board, in order to install people who will ensure that the company is run smoothly. Because a company that is getting absolutely clowned on by its own community, that is the ones who ultimately pay for everything, it's not profitable. It's not, the economics of going against your own customers really doesn't end up working in the long run, because the customers are ultimately the ones who pay for things, especially when you are in entertainment. If you're not making people happy, then you're not doing a good job in the entertainment industry. Okay, that was me me going on a bit of a rant. So now I want to sort of talk about the modern teaser, the modern trailer, and how... Yeah, I want to talk about the Rockstar method. I know we've talked about Rockstar quite a bit in this, but you've got to give it to them that they really do just do their own thing. They are completely unlike basically anyone else in this industry. Rockstar have really mastered the art of doing basically nothing, which is unfair to say, but I think some people have sort of come to expect that a game publisher or developer will put out a ridiculous amount of content and put out a ridiculous number of trailers and show off everything that could possibly be shown before release, especially sort of not Hellfire, but Blitzkrieg method. You're going in and just airdropping as many little trailers as possible, and then you roll in with the gameplay tanks, and then following that you have your demos and you have your early access stuff, in order to sort of get as much hype and get people playing. And in comparison, Rockstar has sort of learned that for their products, they don't need to do that. The fact that they aren't doing those things that the rest of the industry does makes players desperate for more information. It's like getting someone who is addicted to TikTok or YouTube Shorts to sit down and watch a documentary on Python. It's grueling for them because their attention span is just completely ruined. And for a lot of this industry, we've been spoiled with information. We get spoiled all the time with how much information gets released for a game, and I think Rockstar is really pioneered this art of just being quiet and letting the hype bubble, letting people spin themselves into a frenzy theorizing about the game, and coming up with theories and coming up with ideas, because that's zero effort for them. It takes no money to advertise for most of GTA's marketing, because they haven't had to do any of it. A lot of this industry, a lot of the people who are in this industry are basically just doing it for them. You have all these fucking listicle articles that are just like, oh, the top 10 features we want to see in Grand Theft Auto 6, and the top 10 characters we think will return in Grand Theft Auto 6. That brings so much attention to the game. That brings so much just ridiculous hype around the game that theoretically, if they just did nothing all the way up until release, they would almost certainly still sell more copies than Grand Theft Auto 5. It's sort of a given that this game is going to sell well. It's just how much more well can it sell now, by doing just a little bit more, doing a little tiny bit to sort of get the people who aren't already hyped for the game. I remember back when they did the marketing for Red Dead Redemption 2, they just dropped just a single picture of a red logo on a random morning, and they just dominated the global news and social media cycle for like an entire week. It's like all that they need to do is just these quiet little things. Like, yep, we're doing this. Yep, pre-orders are now live. Yep, we're gonna do this thing with Netflix. Yep, this thing's gonna happen. They do it so nonchalantly, but like genuinely nonchalantly. It's not like how some other game companies try and act nonchalant about their games. It always feels fake. with Rockstar, it genuinely feels like, yeah, we've got a game. It's going to be the best game of all time. Here you go. Like that's how it feels like when you see some of their marketing, and it works. It works just perfectly for them. But other than Rockstar, yeah, in this modern era of gameplay trailers, we are in a unique time. We're in a unique period because a lot of it is either heavily consolidated or it is completely independent. What do I mean by that? So, if you remember, sort of pre-COVID, basically every year we had a thing called E3. And E3 was a massive time of year for major game announcements. It wasn't just, one thing and all the games went to that one thing. E3 was a period of time where all of the game companies basically agreed that, yes, this is when we're going to do sort of our big announcements. And at E3, they would have basically each company would do their own conference. They'd do their own show, and they'd go out there and they'd show off their games, which is where we get some of the most infamous some of the most infamous demos and infamous moments in the gaming industry. The classic Peggle announcement where the guy jumps up and goes, "Peggle 2!" and no one is interested. He's so overhyped and it's just absolutely nothing. You have some of the moments we mentioned in this video, where you have the infamous 2 trailer, you have the Motorstorm trailer, you've got all of the Ubisoft trailers that were the vertical slice trailers. So your E3 was a different beast, where this was one period of time where sort of everyone agreed that's where they were going to do all their big announcements, and now it sort of feels like everyone's doing their own thing sort of whenever they want. And the only time where you sort of have an E3-like conference is Summer Games Fest. Either Summer Games Fest or the Game Awards. If you don't know who Jeff Keighley is, you are very new to this industry, and you should go and maybe we can do a video on do an episode on Jeff Keighley. That would be interesting. But Jeff Keighley is, I don't know if it's fair to call him a journalist in the industry. He's a bit of, I feel like he's had his hand in a lot of pies in this industry. I don't think he's ever been involved in the actual development or creation of a game, but he's certainly gotten in there in the weeds with developers to do interviews and do documentaries where he covers the creation of the games and the thought processes that went into creating certain parts of games, and some of the most infamous games and levels of all time. So he's done stuff like that, but his recent sort of big projects have been Summer Game Fest and the Game Awards. The Game Awards has been going on for quite a while, but comparing Game Awards to Summer Game Fest has only been is a relatively new thing. I think it's only been going on for 5-6 years now. I think since 2020. It's either since 2020 or the year after 2020. But regardless, E3 basically stopped doing the big conferences, or at least the big guys stopped going to E3. And all of the people who were doing these conferences started consolidating their announcements, and a lot of other non-first party publishers started doing their announcements at Summer Game Fest or the Game Awards. And it's a really interesting phenomenon. It is a reconsolidation post E3, but it's sort of gone from being Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox doing their announcements to the community all coming together for Summer Game Fest and the M Awards, and then PlayStation, Sony, Nintendo, and Xbox doing their own sort of smaller showcases, usually completely digital, and showing off maybe mostly just first party stuff. Xbox is weird. Sometimes they'll also manage to get like weird extra third party things because Microsoft is weird like that. It's cool, but weird. Everyone else is doing their own sort of thing, and then and then Microsoft is just like, yes, no, we're keeping E3 alive. We're going to announce everyone's games. Come, we shall announce your games for you. So it feels like a very different world. I remember, watching advertisements that would come out for games. There'd be like 30-second TV like commercials, and it feels like that era of advertising has died for gaming, and the sort of independent advertising where everyone just sort of does their own thing has sort of become the norm. Rockstar hasn't announced a single thing at a big conference in years. Like, I think the last time they ever announced something at like an E3 or at a conference was maybe back on the PlayStation 3 with either Grand Theft Auto 4 or when they announced Agent. But otherwise they've learned this radio silence method that works for them, and for the sort of level of anticipation that they get for their product. So that sort of works for them, but a lot of other companies will do their own. They'll just post it on a YouTube channel they have for their own company, or they'll post it with whoever's got the marketing rights, whether that's Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo. And like there's some like this Netflix and Rockstar thing sort of feels like going back to that old, doing the presentation, doing a trailers and stuff in like ads on TV, but in sort of a weird way where now it's the main content. I don't know how else to put it. That's like, you compare, it went from being an ad on TV to its own thing. It's like the anticipation is on its own level. I think entertainment as a whole, though, has sort of moved like the gaming industry has, where anticipation for big projects is, because of the proliferation of the internet, the ability to share excitement and hype around a product has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. We just had that, D23, which is Disney's big yearly extravaganza, and by extravaganza I mean where they do all their marketing and they show all the products they're going to be, all the films and TV shows they're working on, and they show trailers and stuff. It's kind of weird. Like, we've really changed from, E3 used to be, in the early days, used to just be for game journalists. It used to be just for the Jason Schreiers of the world, just for the people who wanted to know how the company was doing. Like, they were more like financial business things. They'd be like, oh yes, this is how many games we've sold and how many units we've sold in Q2, and this is how many units we expect to sell in Q3. It was more like a quarterly earnings call, but in person. And they would show off product and they would show off games so that the media could go and report on it. But E3 eventually became a consumer show. It became a way for consumers to engage with the industry and to engage with the future of the industry and see where the industry is going. And that shift is sort of, it's interesting. It's gone from people getting advertisements when they're watching when they're watching final finished products, to people watching the advertisements and the media on their own. You're watching the marketing on their own because the anticipation for these products is so high that they can command their own viewership. Anyway, I'm getting a bit rambly now. I'm gonna end it here. It definitely feels like we're sort of in the with all the recent news. It definitely feels like we're in sort of the end of an era where games are no longer. The game industry is no longer just a big dog that is ignored. It's becoming a predominant cultural force. It's becoming it's dictating the terms of engagement for a lot of the rest of the entertainment industry. And that may be positive, it may be really negative. I would rather not the same industry that has EA in it and microtransactions and stuff be the source of inspiration for the rest of the entertainment industry if we can help it. If they can learn the good parts of the gaming industry, if the rest of the entertainment industry can learn the good parts of the gaming industry, which is incredible passion for the product and value for the consumer, then that would be a positive outcome. But there is always that fear, that risk that ultimately we could see the rest of the industry want to get in on the action and learning the worst mistakes or learning from the worst parts of the gaming industry. So who knows? Maybe the entertainment industry is gonna become an absolute slog hellfest that slop fest that no one wants to engage with anymore. Or maybe it'll become films that are incredibly engaging and makes you it gives you ridiculous amounts of rewatchability and a ridiculous amount of value for your dollar. But as I've said multiple times in this episode, only time will tell. Yeah, I think that is gonna be about it. I just want to point out that when the GTA 6 trailer does eventually drop, I will almost certainly be doing a video on it as soon as possible, probably not on the same day. I will probably be talking about that quite a bit. That might end up just being a news episode whenever that comes out. What's that? That's the 20. For me, it's the 28th because that's New Zealand time. So it's on the Friday. So it may end up being a Saturday episode of the Moyo show, but we will wait to find out. If I imagine as soon as that comes out, you're gonna have so many people putting up videos about it. The first ones I would go to will be Digital Foundry. They will almost certainly be doing a nice chunky frame by frame pixel counting technical breakdown of that trailer as soon as the embargo lifts. So yeah, I would really recommend probably check those guys out and get subscribed to them so that when that drops you can sort of get in on the analysis and sort of understand sort of the more technical side of what's shown. I also recommend that the weekly recommendation this week was the Python documentary, so yes, I recommend you go watch that. Excellent video. I have now since lost it, so let me go back, and it was Cult Repo. That's right. Excellent thing, excellent documentary there. Again, very much for the programmers amongst you. So yeah, if you're interested in programming, or if you're a programmer or interested in programming and want to learn where Python came from, or a couple of the languages they've done documentaries on, if you want to go learn that, then yeah, that's an excellent source. That'll be linked in the description. Anything else? Oh yes, and as always, community question this week. What did I say it was? Oh yeah, it was the Netflix game. Have you ever played a game on Netflix? And if so, why? Are you mentally ill? No, I'm kidding. But yeah, like what was if you did, what was the scenario? What was the situation that sort of brought that along? Interested in hearing what people's experiences are with that, why they played a game on Netflix. Was it any good? Did you have a good time? Did you enjoy it? Would you do it again? Do you still actively do it? Just, interesting. Let me know. As always, fumble.nz is the best alternative interface for people who live in New Zealand who want to shop from the Humble Bundle store. They have amazing games there. The website is still, it's good. I'm in a it's in a place where I'm happy with it. There are still some things I've mentioned, like a month and a half ago that I was working on that's still technically in the works, but yes, that may come about at some point. Who knows? I don't know. But yes, excellent. I'm really happy with that. So take a look at that if you want to find yourself a deal. If you've got if you bought something from Humble, you may have a little bit of cash sitting in your account because of the cashback thing they do for every purchase. So yeah, maybe go have a look at that. As always, if you heard any music today, that was Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech. Kevin MacLeod is an amazing artist. He's been making music for years. You've almost certainly heard his music, if not today, then in another YouTube video. I think $38, you get all of his songs. If you're a creator, you may be interested in that. Love that guy. So yes, very much recommend that. Alrighty, and that is all for us today. Thank you very much for coming to another episode of the Moyo Show. If this is your first time, please give us a little like, subscription, and let us know. Let me know what you... Let me know, give me an answer to that question I just gave you, the Netflix gaming one. And yes, if you've not watched this before, go have a look at the last week's episode. I think it's quite good. No video this week. No video camera. I couldn't be bothered setting it up. It takes quite a bit more work to do the video version of this. I need to smooth out the workflow, because right now it's quite a pain to deal with. So hopefully in future when I do that, it'll be a bit nicer. I wasn't too happy with how it came out last time, so either way, thank you very much for watching if this is your first time, and if not, then thank you for watching for the previous episodes. There are previous episodes, and we have another episode next week, so if you didn't like this week, you might like next week. And I think that's all. So thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day. Ta-ra!